for those of you out there, get your butts out there to see this lady in concert. And I'm going to see you next Friday.
You tell him, Tony.
We're going to, before we start, let's cheers.
Okay. Got my Tony Pruitt coffee mug right here. Here we go.
There we go. Cheers.
Hi, this is Pam Tillis, and you're watching the Tony Pruitt Show.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tony Pruitt Show. With today's guest, we have a very special guest. Today's guest is a singer, songwriter, producer, and actress. You may also know her as the daughter of the legendary Mel Tillis. She's a Grammy Award winner, CMA winner, and a member of the Grand Ole Opry. Please welcome to the show, the very talented Pam Tillis. How you doing?
Hey, Tony. I'm doing great.
Good to see you. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Before we start, I got a couple things to tell you. Last month, I turned 60 years old. You may remember that. And you invited us to to the show, and we couldn't make it for whatever reason. We couldn't make it, but I wanted to thank you so much for that invitation. That was
no problem.
That meant a lot. But I am going to see you next week, so I'm excited about that.
Oh, great. We'll bring a bunch of folks with you.
We're going to bring all we can. And then also, I want to give a shout out to Marissa, who made all this happen for me. She's been working with me. She's a rock star.
Yes, she is. She knows how to make things happen.
I can't thank her enough. So a big shout out to her. So I was going to ask you, did you see the other day where Billy Gilman did a Facebook Live in your honor? Did you see that?
Yeah, it was really incredible. It really was. It was very flattering.
Did you know about it?
Not until after the fact.
Okay.
We have a funny story. I was playing at a fair in Rhode Island, and it was a little outdoor, kind of an amphitheater, kind of little outdoor, thing. And so the crowd's sitting out there in a semicircle, and I'm up on the stage, summer afternoon, and there's a little kid, like if I look straight out into the middle of the crowd, there was a little kid there with his mom, and he knew every word. He knew every word of every song, and that kind of blew me away. Anyway, I was doing Cleopatra, and he was out there, and he was really getting into it. He knew all the words, and I'm like, "Wait a minute, you need to get up here!" And I pulled him up on stage, and then he grew up to be Billy Gilman, the singer.
Wow!
So,
you're kidding me.
No,
he's very talented.
He's a really good singer, and then I kind of kept track of him over the years, and he worked really hard. I mean, he worked really hard to become the singer that he is.
I mean, I remember him when he was just a little bitty thing. So
yeah,
incredible,
incredible vocal control, and just loves it.
Very good. I thought that was really cool that he did that.
I did too.
Yeah. So I got a lot of questions for you. Some are from your fans that have asked me to ask you. Some are mine. Here's one of the questions is, how does it feel to be a member of the Grand Ole Opry, and what does that mean to you?
Being a member of the Opry is being a part of the song, we sing, "Will the Circle Be Unbroken?" Mm-hmm. And they say you're part of the circle. And literally, when you stand on the stage of the Grand Ole Opry, there is a piece of the old Opry house that they salvaged from, and they put it in the floor. After the flood, they cut that circle out, and it's still there. Right. The circle is unbroken. And, my dad was an Opry member, and I've got friends, and I've been on the stage with my family there. You're part of the long line of troubadours.
Right.
And it just feels great. You're carrying on the tradition of country music and entertaining, but for me, it's also carrying on a family tradition.
Yeah, that's cool.
It means everything.
I mean, I know you've played a lot of venues. Is that one of the coolest places you've played?
Everybody will tell you that it is. And it's so funny, every time I do the Opry, I get a little extra nervous.
Do you really?
Yeah, because you're standing, where you're standing where the greats have stood.
Oh, absolutely.
And it feels like a big responsibility.
Big responsibility. That's a great honor as well.
Mm-hmm.
You've been nominated and you've won several awards. Do you remember what it was like when you won the Grammy or when you won the Female Vocalist? Do you recall how you've actually felt?
Yeah, well, each award has its own significance. And the CMA Award was a funny one. We're talking about family.
Mm-hmm.
Growing up in Nashville, I'm from Central Florida, but I grew up here. And so being, Mel Tillis's daughter, a lot of eyes were on me in the creative community.
Mm-hmm.
And they watched me develop and they watched me work on my craft. And they knew that I wanted to, do music, follow in my dad's footsteps. And they were rooting for me a really long time. And but I took a really kind of a sidewinding journey to get on the radio and have a hit record. I went off on some musical tangents and I sang jazz and I sang R&B and I sang rock and roll. And, one time I thought I wanted to be the next Madonna without the pointy bra.
Yeah.
I thought, because when I was in high school, Daddy was Entertainer of the Year, the Mac Daddy Award.
Oh, yeah.
I thought to myself, how am I? Because it can be very hard to come out from underneath a big shadow. Sure. And so I thought, that's one reason. And also, I just was kind of hard-headed. That's why my first number one record, Don't Tell Me What to Do, fit me so well. Everybody kind of chuckled about that because I didn't want to be typecast. I went, I love all kinds of music. What if I happen to be what if I'm a better opera singer? I don't know. I just felt like I should try on
different things.
Some things before I'm like, well, you guys you can't tell me who I am before I know who I am.
Sure.
And I ended up coming back to country and I wanted to come back to country. And so where I'm going with all of that, Tony, is when I finally won the award, I really felt like all of Nashville breathed a collective sigh of relief because they were rooting for me. They wanted me to make it. It just took me a little longer than usual.
Well, we're glad you came back home to country. So speaking of your father, he was hilarious, especially his cameos in movies. Oh, I just love him. Was he really that funny, like at home, off stage and stuff, or was that acting or?
No, he was really funny. When he was around family, he was funny in a more subtle way,
Right.
Now, he just we all have a quirky sideways way of looking at things, and that comes out funny. Anyway, Tony, so did you do it? So I'm sorry, that was Marisa checking on me. But any group of people more than two was an audience to Daddy. So he would turn that entertainer thing on at the dinner table.
Yes.
Or if he was in a room of, old buddies. But yeah, Daddy was truly funny. He was truly funny.
Since you started off in, I believe it was pop, right? Is that correct? You wanted to go the pop route first?
Yeah.
Did you No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And I didn't have any. I did do a pop album, and I had a couple of singles that were pop oriented. And they didn't do anything. My original album was in vinyl, by the way, and you can find it at garage sales across America. You can actually find some of those old singles on YouTube. But I did have some neat things happen to me as a pop songwriter. I had a song recorded by Chaka Khan and Gloria Gaynor that did I Will Survive. She recorded one of my songs. I think Helen Reddy recorded one of my songs. Dan Seals, who kind of did pop country. So yeah, that was pretty neat.
Did you have full support of your father, even though that you didn't go into country? Did he still support you in your new endeavors?
He was a little perplexed, to tell you the truth. He's like,
okay,
how can you avoid the obvious? Like, what are you doing?
Right.
But he was always supportive. I think it impressed him a little bit that I wanted to make my own way.
Sure.
I think I could tell that he'd get a little frustrated for me because it wasn't happening that fast, but he knew that I had to find my way.
Absolutely. I've seen almost all your videos, and they're great, by the way. Right now, I'm hooked on one video in particular. It's called Two Kings.
Oh, wow.
Yes. I believe the guy, I forgot the guy's name. Is it Kris Thomas? Is that his name? That you do a duet with? On the Two Kings video. Do you recall that video?
Oh, yeah, Kris Thomas. That's right. Excuse me. Hang on one second.
No, you're good.
That came about in a funny way. I was teaching, help facilitating songwriting class up in British Columbia.
Really?
And people come from all over the place to go to those songwriter classes. A lot of people, there's some pretty great people that do some. If you're interested in that kind of thing, Beth Nielsen Chapman, Mary Gaucher, Rodney Crowell does some, Steve Earle does some. I haven't done one in quite a while, but I happened to be up there with Beth Nielsen Chapman, and a lady from Memphis was one of the students. And so, the students, they all work on their songs, and then you kind of, you get together and you critique, and everybody will throw one out and you'll critique it. And most of the songs they weren't surprising. A lot of them weren't surprising in any kind of way. You're like, okay, well, maybe I've kind of heard that before, because a lot of new songwriters, they'll be emulating. And to be fair, that's how you learn, you learn by copying. But this one lady had a very original idea, and that it wasn't particularly well written, but I said, there's a good song in here somewhere because there's a great idea, and it's an unusual idea. And they say that the definition of a creative mind is a mind that can connect dots that other people don't see. And she connected Elvis being the king of rock and roll and Martin Luther King, who was, the king of leader of the civil rights movement. And she had grown up around that in Memphis. And how both of those men had a tragic ending. Maybe they were different, but they also both inspired a lot of people. And I thought those were interesting dots to connect.
Very.
And so I told her that. And so a couple of months later, she was a woman of, some means, so she could afford to do some things that not everybody can afford to do. And she found a way to contact me. And she said, I want to hire you to help me finish that song. And I'm like, well, I don't normally do that, but then I kind of, because I'd been intrigued with the idea, I'm like, okay, let me sit down and see how I can make it better. And then I got into it.
It's wonderful.
So I brought the song around, and she loved it. And then about a month later, she calls me again. She goes, I want to make a record out of it. And I'm like, well, I kind of normally don't necessarily do that with people, but, and since then I have gotten into a mentorship role, and sometimes people will hire me to help them. Anyway, but at the time I wasn't doing that. But I said, well, don't really do that, but let me think about how I can get it done. And so I got the track cut, and I was going to hire a singer. And by that time I went, oh, what the heck, I'll just do it myself.
Yes.
And then somewhere along the line, I had the idea to make it a duet. I thought that'd be kind of fun. And she knew about Kris, and she recommended him, and he was great.
Oh, he's awesome.
So I turned in the song. About a month later, she calls me again. She goes, I want to make a video. And I'm like, Brenda, are you sure? And she's like, no, we're going to make a video. So we went to Memphis and we did the video. So
it's awesome. I just love it.
Some people have liked it. It was very different than what I usually do, but it was
a fun different.
Project. Yeah.
For those of you who haven't seen it, please check it out. It's called Two Kings. You'll love it. I'm a big Elvis fan, so I love everything. Speaking of which, Elvis, did you ever get to meet Elvis?
I didn't, but my mother did. Mom, I asked her that one time sitting around the dinner table one night, did you ever meet him? And she says, oh, yeah. She said, we got invited to a show. This was pretty much in the early days, pretty early. Mm-hmm. And so she and Dad went, and she said, it was just incredible. He was just incredible. And
sure.
What charisma he had.
So I love him.
She had the good fortune too.
Well, like I said, you've got several videos. Do you think making all those videos helped you in your acting career? A little bit. I mean, you learn things from it, how to look into the camera and how to follow the camera and how to find your light. But it wasn't by any means everything I needed to know to do TV or anything bigger than a video, Right.
But every time I've gone to do a TV, I've been surrounded by trained actors, and everybody I've ever been on a set with was very generous, and they'll help you because they want. If you look bad, it's going to maybe take away from their performance.
Sure,
so they want you to look good too, and so like when I would be on Nashville. Charles S. and he would always be so helpful. All of them were. Claire Bowen, all of them would they'll say, okay, now do this or try it this way, So,
that's cool. I got to ask you one question though. How was it working with Dick Van Dyke?
Amazing. Just kind of intimidating. Just
was he a nice guy? And
oh, gracious, elegant, just,
okay.
Hollywood royalty.
Well, that's good to hear. I'm a big fan of his too. So he seems to be very that way. So I was hoping he would be that way. What other types of music?
Very classy.
Very classy. And still living up today. He's getting up there.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing?
Must be all that good California sunshine.
I guess so. So what other kind of music do you enjoy listening to other than country?
A little bit of everything. I mean, I don't like, well, not everything. It's easy. It'd be easier for me to tell you what I don't really care
what you don't like.
I don't like violent music. I think music is supposed to bring people together, not divide them.
I agree.
And I don't like music I don't like real profane music. Although I think in poetry and free expression, if you're doing it for a reason, I can understand that as an artist. But just to capitalize on shock value and things like that, I don't care for that. And I also care about what we're putting out to our kids.
Right. I agree.
But I do understand that there's something for everybody. There's a broad audience and there are segments, for, what music that I find like makes me want to drive off a cliff might be healing for somebody else. So it's not really my place to judge, but, I have a place in my heart for some jazz, like the Great American Songbook. I grew up loving Judy Garland and I mean, Miles Davis and even Joni Mitchell in her jazz phase. I love that. Chick Corea, when I was in college, everybody was listening to Chick Corea and Stanley Clarke. And so I like that. I took classical piano and I appreciate the classics. I don't understand all of it, but I appreciate it. And I can tell even, I'm amazed by opera singers. I think they're the Olympic athletes of what we do.
It is amazing. Yes.
Whether you like the sound of it or not, I listen to them and go, those people are incredibly trained, and it can be very beautiful if you let your preconceived notions about what music should be, if you let that go. I like indie pop. I like alternative country.
Mm-hmm.
I like some bluegrass. I like all of it, but
some
of it's. But there's different camps. There's old traditional, like I got to sing on a Ralph Stanley album, and I was thrilled with that. And then there's the new kids like Billy Strings and Molly Tuttle and Sierra Hull and Kris Thiele, and I think those people are incredible.
Good answer. So we're kind of starting to get back.
I like Texas country.
I was going to ask you, Texas country.
I like Ray Rodney Hubbard, and I'm sad that Robert Earl King retired, but good on him. And Jimmy Dale Gilmore and all that crew. I don't know all of them, but there's so many talented people down that way that don't need to go anywhere. They can tour in Texas, and they're ginormous stars, but we're always happy when they come our way. Yeah,
absolutely. So things are kind of getting back the way they used to be a little bit. How did COVID affect you as an entertainer?
Well, the bottom fell out.
It just fell.
It just fell out. And even 2021 was shaky.
Mm-hmm.
And, we're not out of the woods. I'm sorry. I've got a lot of fellow entertainers that I just filled in for Tracy Lawrence last week. He was sick as a dog. So we are really in effect in a lot of ways. And I ask people to understand this. If we don't do meet and greets like we used to all the time, or I used to sign autographs after every show. I cannot do that.
No.
Because if I get sick, it's not just me out of work. It's my band out of work.
Sure.
My production crew out of work. Booking agent doesn't get a paycheck. It's just a trickle down. And it's really unfortunate. We're still dealing with it. Yeah, like I said, I filled in for Tracy Lawrence last week, and he's doing better. But he was really feeling horrible, and so it's going around still. And we all need to be mindful. I don't mean to preach, but we all need to be mindful this winter, because we are having another little surge. And there's age groups, and like I'm a little bit older now. I'm no spring chicken. Anybody can look it up on Wikipedia. So I have to be.
You look like a spring chicken still.
Thank you.
So tell us what all you got going on right now. I didn't think this interview was ever going to happen because you're so busy. You're on the road. You got a tour going. We're going to show your tour dates, by the way, in Texas, so we can get some people out there. But tell us what all you got going. You're in the studio, I hear, also?
Yeah, we're actually, hopefully before I leave bright and early for Canada, I've got 2 dates up there with Lori Morgan. I do things with her still after 11 years. We still hook up occasionally to do what we call grits and glamour.
Right.
So a couple little grits and glamour gigs to round out the year. I have a tour that I do sometimes with Susie Boggess and Terry Clark, and we call that Chicks with Hits. And gotta be careful how I say that. Chicks. You
gotta be careful.
And, and that's a lot of fun. Terry Clark's opening for Reba for the next, I think, through the spring, but we still plan to do some dates together. And I tour with a trio, all-female trio, my trio, which is what I'll be bringing with me to Texas. I do full band gigs occasionally. We'll be hopping on the country cruise in January to do that with my full band. I do Grand Ole Opry's. I'm wrapping up Christmas EP. We're going to do something a little different. We're cutting an EP right now, but we may stick some more. We're probably going to stick some more songs onto that in the spring, and then it'll be a full out Christmas album in Christmas of 23. But I wanted to put a little bit of new Christmas music out.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so we're racing to get that done.
Well, that's awesome. You are a busy lady.
Yeah.
Well, the last thing that we do on our show, I don't know if you've had time to watch any of our shows. It's called the Fun Fast Five, where we just pick 5 questions out of a hat to ask you, and they're simple, they're fun, they're fast. Are you ready to play?
I'm ready.
All right, number 1. What kind of food do you enjoy eating the most?
When I need something that not just feeds my body, but feeds my soul, I love country cooking. I grew up on, beans and cornbread and turnip greens and fried pork chops and
nothing wrong with that.
And lima beans, and I'm a country girl.
Nothing wrong with that at all. Number 2, what was one of your favorite TV shows growing up?
Oh gosh, I'm a kid of the, I don't know. There were a bunch of them. I loved. I remember liking Lost in Space, and I love Lucy. I feel so old when I tell you these.
You're just old.
You mentioned the Dick Van Dyke. Dick Van Dyke. We love the Dick Van Dyke Show.
Just old school, like me.
Just old school stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you remember your first pet you ever had?
Let me think way, way, way back. I don't remember. Daddy had dogs, but he had hunting dogs. Mm-hmm. And Mom was kind of one of these people that she didn't grow up with dogs. So dogs were something that you kept outside in the bird dog pen.
Well, yeah.
But so we didn't really get a family dog until I was about 10 years old. And we had a little dog named Buford, a little Cocker Spaniel.
Buford. Okay. Number 4. Do you have a favorite pastime hobby?
I love antiquing. Like if I got a Sunday off, I'll drive to the little antique malls in Nashville. And I don't necessarily buy. Sometimes I'll just wander around and look at old stuff.
Antiquing.
I'd love it. And then on the road, if I can squeeze in a little moment, like before the band's ready for me at sound check, I'll try to grab an hour or 2 to go to the local place.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Number 5, what's one of your favorite movies of all time?
Lonesome Dove was one that I totally loved. And
that's a good one.
That's a good one. The classics, E.T. and Lonesome Dove might be my favorite.
All right. That's all the questions I have for you today. I hope I didn't take up too much of your time.
You didn't. It was a pleasure talking to you. I'm glad we finally made it happen.
I am too. Thank you so much for joining us today. And you are such a class act. Never change. And for those of you out there, get your butts out there to see this lady in concert. And I'm going to see you next Friday.
You tell them, Tony.
We're going to. You betcha. Well, and for those of you watching, we always appreciate your time. Hit that subscribe button and like button. And we always thank you for everything that the fans do for us. So until next time, yes, we do. Until next time, peace out and God bless.
God bless. Bye.